Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Effective Resume Thursday. We're very glad you're with us today. It's November 3rd, 2021. Please note this event is being recorded and is currently live on Facebook. The recording will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and the Career USA YouTube channel for others to view in the future. By participating in this event, you give consent for your name and picture to appear. Please note that any comments you put in the Zoom chat window will not appear in the Zoom recording. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please just put them in the Zoom chat window. For those watching on Facebook, please just enter your questions into the comment field. We are going to review 1 or 2 resumes today live online. You're welcome to submit your resume just using the chat box. Click on the little, where you see the blue arrow, the little file button. You can attach your resume, but please, you may want to delete your header information off of that so that just because this will be on Facebook and YouTube for as long as electrons float around the atmosphere. So just as a, it'll be out there forever and ever. So if you want to delete your header information, that'd be great. All right, well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeff Morris. Back in 2008, I started a website called careerdfw.org. In 2012, I started a second website, careerusa.org, to help those outside the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I have written a book called What I've Learned About Your Job Search That You May Not Know. It is available on Amazon. Since 2007, I've been facilitating and leading the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group meeting. I'll tell you about our upcoming program that we have scheduled for tomorrow at the end of this session. And since 2017, I've been a member of the practice interview team. This is a great way to practice your interview skills. Everybody spends a lot of time on your resume, you spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, you spend a lot of time networking, but how much time do you spend practicing interviewing? When somebody calls you up to conduct that interview, how much practice do you have? So it's a great way to do it. We'll put some information on how to do that in the chat window in just a second. Well, our speaker today is Carol Brickell. She's a certified professional career coach. She's been doing this for us for a year and a half now. This is our 383rd or 84th workshop we put on since COVID started. So Carol, thank you for being with us, and I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you, Jeff, and thank you to those who have joined us today. Been looking forward to doing this one. Let's see if I can find my presentation. Let's see, I had it up there. There we go. I'm going to share my presentation, get it into slideshow mode. Good, and welcome to everyone who's attended. And we designed these to be interactive and fun, so I recommend going ahead and opening up your chat box, and I'm going to do the same thing. So if you have any comments or questions throughout the presentation, when you see me looking over here, I'm just looking at my second monitor where I have my chat box open. I'm going to open up the participant box today as well. Watch as people join us. I think people are still joining in. Good. Okay. Great. And to get us warmed up using the chat box, I'd like for everybody to go in to chat and type in, what's a question that you have about resumes, or what topic are you hoping we cover today? Or is there conflicting information or advice you've gotten about resumes? Go ahead and type that into chat. What are you hoping that we cover today? And as Jeff mentioned, resumes are important. That helps you get in the door. And then practicing for interviews is important too, because that helps you get the job. Good, we've got a couple of comments coming in. Should I post my resume on LinkedIn? That's a good question. Resumes should be targeted to the job you're applying for. So I don't recommend posting just a targeted resume. We'll talk about the concept of a master resume, that's a possibility, and also a one-page bio, which is a different type of document that's a good introduction document. That could be an excellent thing to post on LinkedIn. How many pages? Yeah, and you've probably heard different things. When I've talked to expert recruiters that are used to presenting resumes to hiring managers, for professional resumes, the sweet spot seems to be around 2 pages for people that have had 5 or more professional years. If you just have a one-page resume, that signals to the recruiter you don't have much experience. You might be just a recent college grad. Now, there are some exceptions. If you're applying for higher education or highly technical jobs, sometimes those resumes, or government jobs, those can go on for 4, 5, 6, 7 pages. So, but for most professional corporate jobs, the sweet spot seems to be about 2 pages. You want to show enough information, but you also want it targeted. So thank you for that question. Good. Throughout the presentation, if you have any comments, advice you've heard, or questions, feel free to type those into chat. And I'll be sharing some advice based on my experience. And your job as a listener is just to listen to the advice and apply, what makes sense to you. And if some things don't make sense to you, don't worry about it. You don't have to use all the advice. But the type of advice I provide is based on my experience as a hiring manager. I worked at EDS, Ross Perot's company that was acquired by Hewlett Packard. I worked there for 32 years in a variety of different roles. Systems engineer, project manager, sales consultant, managing consultant, HR, learning and development, all sorts of roles. And I was always a hiring manager, and I loved interviewing people. And we had the opportunity, if we had a certain number of years of service and age, we could volunteer for their early retirement package in 2012. And I thought that was a good time to do it for me because I knew a lot of people that had been laid off, and I really wanted to learn the recruiting industry because I knew eventually I wanted to become a career coach. So I took early retirement in 2012. I had a great job as an agency recruiter. And then I was recruited away to do some corporate recruiting with one of my former leaders. And so I got some excellent experience for 6 years working in the recruiting industry. So I felt what it feels like to look at hundreds of resumes a day and present dozens of resumes to hiring managers and getting their feedback. And that was so valuable for me. And I experienced what it was like to receive phone calls from candidates. And so I learned so much from that. And I've placed candidates in a variety of roles. And like Jeff, I volunteer every week for the Dallas Pit Crew to help people practice interviews. And like Jeff and I said, the resume is a good tool to get in the door, but the interview is what's going to get you the job. And practicing for that interview can help you be successful. And so we've posted some information about the Dallas Pit Crew. It's real easy to sign up for a mock interview. You just simply send an email to dallaspitcrew@gmail.com. It's in this flyer. And just send your resume and a target job description. It could be a job that you're actually applying for, or just a target job that you want to practice with. And we'll put you through a mock interview and let you know what you did well and give you some ideas for improvement. And then also I've been certified by the Professional Association of Resume Writers and Career Coaches. So I'll be sharing my perspective based on this experience. And since I've worked with recruiters, I keep close in touch with my recruiting buddies. And I got this list today, and this is just a sampling of some of the lists of jobs open through Next Step Recruiting. And most of these jobs are in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, but some of them can be done remotely. And Next Step Recruiting is always looking for accounting leaders, financial people, accountants. They always have positions they're trying to fill for their clients for accounting positions, and usually lots of HR positions, HR generalists, payroll, HR business partners. So if you don't have a great recruiter working for you, I recommend having that as part of your job search strategy, because they can get you presented to hiring managers and give you feedback about your resume and help you, prepare for those interviews. So if you aren't connected with a great recruiter, please reach out to me. And if the other day I had somebody from our last session we did reach out to me, and their resume was an engineering resume. The Next Step Recruiting doesn't do a lot of engineering recruiting, but I know people that do. So no matter what, send me your resume. I'll get you connected with a great recruiter. And you can find me on LinkedIn, and we'll show my LinkedIn profile at the end. So for today's agenda, the first thing I'm going to do is share some advice I've gathered from other experts on resumes. And the epiphany I had this week is I often hear from people that they get conflicting advice about resumes, and they don't know what to do, and they have all sorts of different versions. And the epiphany I had was when I talk to people that are experts who've been recruiters or career coaches, and have a lot of experience presenting resumes to hiring managers, I get very consistent feedback and advice from those people. And you'll see it because I'm going to share advice from some pretty renowned experts here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area that were generous with their time and let me interview them about what's important about resumes. And you'll see there's a lot of consistency. So I think the trick is to find people who have a lot of experience looking at resumes and presenting them to hiring managers, and you'll find some consistency. Now, there are some nuances because every ATS system works differently, and there can be some different nuances on how you want to present yourself, and that's fine. But some of the big things are actually quite consistent. And then we'll talk about something new, a one-page bio that more and more people are starting to use, and it's a different type of document. And this is the kind of document you can post on LinkedIn. We'll talk about the concept of a master resume, and we'll briefly talk through some key components of a resume. And then at the end of the session, this is everybody's favorite part, if you could send me a copy of your resume in chat as a file attachment, you can take out your contact information. I think we had one person who's already volunteered. I haven't received it yet. But if you could send it to me in chat, you can take out your contact information and we can look at your resume and give you compliments on what's looks good about your resume and maybe give you some ideas to even make it better. So please do that, and we'll cover that at the end of the session. And if you have trouble sending it to me in chat, you can send it to Jeff. And Jeff, you have an email address that people could send it to.
Yeah, they can send it to resume@careerdfw.org. Resume@careerdfw.org.
Yes. Yeah, I think we had somebody that wanted to share their resume. So feel free to do it either way. Great. So the first person I interviewed regarding resumes is somebody who's been a guest speaker through some of the Career DFW sessions, and he's been a mentor for me for years, and that's Charlie Zinger, who works for Career Management Partners and has a lot of experience, and he worked with me at EDS as a recruiting manager, so he knows what it feels like to look at resumes and present them to hiring managers. And he says keep three components in mind. Keep the technology in mind, because when you're writing a resume and submitting it online, it has to go into an applicant tracking system. So be sure that it's ATS compatible, and we'll give a little more information about that. And be sure to match your resume to the job posting. So you want to create a customized version of your resume every time. And you'll just need to come up with a naming convention. Carol Brickell, recruiting resume, and then company name or something like that. You want to keep track of that. And the second most important point, attention to detail. And I hear this consistently, no errors. Your verb tenses, be careful about that. And we'll show examples of that. Word usage, spelling errors. Make sure you show good attention to detail. I've seen hiring managers throw them away if there's spelling issues, spacing issues. Yes. And then style points, how to display multiple roles within a company. And we'll show how to do that. So the things that Charlie mentioned are absolutely compatible with the things we teach every week. And the things he says about applicant tracking systems are consistent with what we say every week. Because when you apply online, your resume is going into one of these systems. It could be Workday, it could be Taleo, and there are many applicant tracking systems. And they're reading the data in your resume and putting it into their database. So you want to be careful about the fonts. Charlie recommends Arial or Times New Roman, and don't mix them up a lot, be consistent. And also I like Calibri font size 11. That's my favorite as well. And that works in most, I think, a lot of the applicant tracking systems as well. And font size no larger than 14, not smaller than 9, especially Times New Roman. It can be kind of small. So I'd say 10 or 11 on that. And for Calibri, I say 11. And is the resume review part of the recorded session? Yes. So that's why if you want to take off your contact information or even mask the names of your companies, you can, because it will be part of the recording. So you're welcome to mask it a little bit to make it look anonymous, and you're welcome to send it to me. And also for applicant tracking system friendly versions of your resume, don't use the header or footer part of Microsoft Word. Those sections won't get read, especially in Word that doesn't read it. And the bullet point should only be the default round black bullets, no arrowheads, starbursts, or anything special. And no font color other than black, just black and white. I hear that consistently. No excessive bolding. Yeah, reading a paragraph and then having a few words bolded. Don't do that. Just no excessive bolding except for the headings. And underlining and italics, less is best. And sometimes the underlining can cause an issue with reading text. Like if the Y goes under the underline, it won't read the word correctly. And thank you to those who have joined us. Glad you're joining in. And no icons, no pictures, no photographs of yourself on a resume. It's okay to do it for social networking, like on LinkedIn, or the one-page bio that we're talking about, which is more of a networking document. But for an official job application document like a resume, no photo of yourself or graphics. Okay, so that's advice from Charlie. And then these are a few points from me regarding applicant tracking systems, because this is one area where you may get conflicting advice. And that's because there are dozens or hundreds of systems out there. They all work differently, and each company can configure them differently. So you can hear different things about how they work. So you have to keep just kind of the big picture in mind, and don't do any special formatting on your resume so it's really clean to be read by the system. And when you upload it in the system, it's best to use the native Microsoft Word format, because some ATS systems like Workday can't read a PDF. Now, later at the end of the application, it may say, do you want to upload an attachment of your resume? That attachment is the one that the recruiters click on and look at. That one you may want to put in a PDF format so it preserves the look and feel of the format. So when you're uploading it to be read, native MS Word, you want a corporate recruiter to look at it as an attachment. The PDF version might be better. Okay. And then the biggest advice regarding ATS systems is when you upload your ATS system in the system and just sit back and wait to get called for an interview, what do you think your chances are of getting called for an interview? Type a percentage number in chat. And those of you who've heard my presentation before may know this number. So if you apply to a job, what's the percentage chance that you're going to get called for an interview? Just type a number, just take a guess and type in chat. And those of you who joined, we use chat quite a bit. Feel free to open up your chat box, and you can always submit questions or comments in chat. And we have one guess, it's pretty close. It's actually lower than that. And I found this to be true. Statistically, I've read the number is 2% chance. So it's virtually zero. And I found that to be true. As a corporate recruiter, we would post a job. I typically get between 200 and 300 applicants. 90% of them wouldn't be qualified. And the ATS system would sort people kind of by keywords and experience. And I might look at the top 10 or 20, and that's about it. And I might call 8 of them, maybe 5 to 8, and invite 5 in for interviews. So that's less than 2%. So what you have to do to overcome that, and you have to do this to get an interview, you have to take an extra step and contact a person to let them know that you meet the requirements. Don't just call and say, hey, I'm really interested in this job. This would be really great for my career. Yeah, I'd love to do this. I'd like to work for you guys. No, call and say, I want to introduce myself. I just applied for your job, the corporate recruiting job, and I meet all of the requirements. Specifically, I have over 5 years of experience recruiting, and I've recruiting for accounting and finance people, which was one of the requirements on the job. Be happy to have a conversation with the appropriate recruiter. Call someone. And you might ask me, well, who do I call? If you know somebody at the company, call them or send a note to them and say, I just applied for this job. I meet the requirements. I'd be grateful if you could forward it to the recruiting team. And they may get a referral bonus if you do that. Or if you don't know anybody there, reach out to the person who posted the job. Once in a blue moon on LinkedIn, it'll show the name of the recruiter who posted the job. You could send them a quick note on LinkedIn, or they may have their email posted on LinkedIn. Send them a brief note. Wanted to introduce myself, just applied for your position. Name the position, I meet the requirements, specifically this and this. Be happy to have a conversation. Now, if you don't know anyone, I don't recommend reading out to any old recruiter because they're probably underwater working on other jobs, maybe at risk of losing their job because they haven't met their quotas. So I recommend going up a level, finding a recruiting leader, recruiting or talent acquisition, hopefully somebody who's been there a while. Reach out to them and say you meet the requirements. Be happy to speak to the appropriate recruiter. And they'll either talk to you or get you to the right recruiter. And I will tell you, as a recruiter and a recruiting manager, if I got a phone call like that and somebody said, hey, I just applied for your job. I had a salesperson say, and I'm your gal. I'm in New York City. I've sold financial services and I meet all my sales targets. I flew her to Dallas the next week and we hired her. So those are the people I hire, people that are proactive. So that's my tip of the day. If you have any questions about that or reactions, let me know in LinkedIn. Or in chat. Spent a little time on that because that's probably the biggest thing I learned as a recruiter. Okay, here's some more advice. This is from Sarah Jacob, who's a wonderful recruiter that spends time with some of the networking groups around Dallas-Fort Worth, and I've learned a lot from her. And she provides a lot of good advice. Don't include your home address. Don't include pictures on your resume. And create a professionally named Gmail account for your job search. And don't use a silly email address. Use something that has your name in it. It looks more professional, and it's easier for recruiters to find you in their stacks of emails. And make sure your voicemail box is a professional message and is cleaned out. You don't want it to be full. And include the entire tenure at one company and list out progressive positions underneath each title. And we'll show you how to do that when we show formatting. Use a chronological resume in reverse chronological order, not functional. Hiring managers want to see your accomplishments under each position. This is all very consistent with the things we've been teaching week after week. Focus on your hard skills, the skills you learn on the job, your industry expertise, especially relating to the industry you're applying for. Now, if you're applying for a job at a manufacturing company, you want to highlight that. They don't care if you've worked in retail or financial services. So focus on that. And soft skills that are maybe go softer on this. Now, if they mention that they need somebody who can work in a fast-paced environment, you might want to put that in your opening paragraph, but don't go too heavy on the soft skills. Sometimes those are overused, like hard worker, team player, strategic thinker. Some of those soft skills recruiters are getting tired of listening to. List software systems on your resume, especially ones that are required by the job description. And if they're looking for people that can do pivot tables and VLOOKUPs, say Microsoft Excel, including pivot tables and VLOOKUPs. And sometimes, recruiters and ATS systems are looking for specific software. We'll show you how to do that. Write a brief summary instead of an objective. We'll show how to do this. And don't write in the first person, especially your opening paragraph. Write it professionally in the third person. We'll show how to do that. So all of these tips are very consistent with what we've been teaching week after week. And here are tips from the wonderful Gail Houston, who leads one of the teachers for the career transition workshops we do here. And she's been a guider and a mentor to many of us in the recruiting industry. And she recommends making sure you've customized your LinkedIn URL so it doesn't have those extra characters at the end of it. Make it short. And you can do that by going to LinkedIn, to your profile page, and click on Edit Public Profile and URL, and you can shrink that up if you need to. And then put it on your resume. And put it on in text format, not a hot link. Because if you put a hot link, some systems like Workday will throw it in a frenzy. So put it on the top of your resume, and we'll show how to do that. And again, a professional looking email and your closest city or state. If you live in a suburb that people don't recognize, it makes it kind of challenging. So put the closest major city that you're looking for. And make sure you have a focus statement or the job title that's closest to your background that matches the job description. And we'll show how to do that as well. Accomplishments-based resume, just not tactical responsibilities. And we'll show how to do that as well. Be careful with formatting. You don't want it so crowded, and recommend 2 pages. So we'll show how to do all these things. So see, this is why I had this epiphany that when I talk to these people that I've learned from over the years, their feedback is very consistent with it. And then also when I got certified by the Professional Association of Resume Writers, again, they say easy to read, make lots of white space, free from spelling, punctuation, grammatical errors, and spell out acronyms in most cases. There might be exceptions like SAP. You wouldn't spell that out. But if it's a unique acronym, and if it's an acronym just used at your company, you may just want to try to use a more generic term rather than the acronym that was used just at your company. And focus on skills related to the target job, include qualitative and quantitative accomplishments, graphics, pictures, underlines, and boxes for the ATS resumes. So this is fairly consistent advice. Okay, good. Looks like we've got a resume. I'm going to take a moment to download this resume and put it in my resume folder. So thank you for that. Good. So we have a resume review at the end of this. Now we're going to talk about the concept of a one-page bio. Type in chat if you have a one-page bio. Type yes in chat and let us know how you use that. And I'm finding as I'm coaching people, everybody has a resume when they're applying for a job. However, when you're networking with people, like let's say, I'm going to use Lennox Industries as an example, because my dad worked there for 42 years and designed the rooftop air conditioning systems on schools. And I know one of the HR people. Let's say I just want to reach out to Lennox and just get advice from somebody, maybe in HR, about what it's like to work there or what kind of jobs might my background align to. I wouldn't want to send them a resume because that would make them think, oh, I'm just looking for a specific job. But what I would do is reach out to them and say, I've always admired Lennox. My dad worked there. Would you have time for 15 minutes to give me advice? Here's my bio. And a bio is just a softer, gentler document that provides kind of an overview of who I am. And thank you. People are starting to network here in chat, and feel free to do that. Network with each other. So if you want to go into chat, type in, everybody will see your name, but type in the target company you're looking for, target jobs and target companies, and then help each other out if you know people at any of those target companies. So thank you for doing that proactively and networking in chat. You're welcome to do that. So I don't see if anybody's done a one-page bio. I highly recommend it for networking purposes because when you're networking with people, it puts them more at ease. You're just trying to get to know them, because the thing that causes people not to reach back out to you when you're reaching out to networking is, number one, they're afraid they can't find you a job. Number two, they're afraid it's going to take a whole bunch of time. But if you just say, would you have 15 minutes? I'd be interested in your advice about my career. And here's my bio just to introduce myself. That makes it a little more friendly and they're more likely to respond to you. So we'll share a couple of samples with you and we'll put them in chat, and you're welcome to use and leverage these. I was searching for a one-page bio that would be easy to update in Microsoft Word, and one of my clients had this format. So I just plugged my information into it. And again, it has a picture because it's a social networking document. It's not an official job application document like a resume. And it has key areas of expertise, a little bit of background, very brief information about my professional biography, the companies I've worked for, education, certifications, contact information, and major accomplishments. And this is where you want to quantify accomplishments relating to your areas of expertise. So it's just kind of a nice introductory document. And then here's another version. This is another type that's in landscape mode that has competencies, a little bit more information there, professional achievements and professional biography, target functions that I'm looking for, and target companies. And if you're talking to one specific company, you may want to be careful about this. Do you want to list all the other companies you're looking at or not? Now, if you're just reaching out to maybe a former boss and just trying to get their advice, you might list all the companies you're thinking about, and they may help you add to that list. So that list you may want to be a little more careful about. So these are a couple of examples of bios, and you're welcome to use these and leverage these. And now this is something I've learned about from Jeff. So Jeff, if you'd like to share a few words of wisdom about the concept of a master resume.
Make your life easy when you're looking for a job. Create yourself a master resume. I know in my case, I probably have 20 different resumes over the years, and I have a file from when I first graduated college with all the different variations of my resume that I used. And so my recommendation is make one giant Word document or Google Doc document, whatever you're using for a word processing program, that has everything you've ever done since the very beginning, and list 8 or 10 bullet points for each one, list addresses, who your manager was, list all the details. And then when you see a job description, take that master resume, save it as, however you save different versions, and then start eliminating everything that's not on the job description. Because if it's not on the job description, they don't care about it. Now, they may when you're in an interview, but as far as you want the person who is matching up the job description with the resume to find a fit. So just tell them what they want to know. Everybody here's done a lot of great things, but tell them what they want to know so you can get that phone call.
Yes. And this topic was brought up yesterday in one of Foster Williams' sessions, one of his Who You Know sessions, where they brought in someone who'd been looking for a job for over a year. And initially her resume was, I don't know, 4 or 5 pages long. It listed everything at the top of her resume. She listed all the titles of things she could do, very different. And she wasn't getting any responses because recruiters looked at her resume and they thought, this person doesn't know what they want to do. And so somebody gave her advice, you need to focus it. So she created a 2-page version and focused on one of her titles, where she had the most expertise. And then she started getting more results, and then she got a job. So, and then I talked to people that have been through this. So a master resume is a great document to start with, but then you need to focus on the jobs that you're applying to. So this is an excellent point. Good. And now I'll briefly walk through just characteristics of good resumes, and then we'll look at the sample that we received. So the main goal is to make it easy for those ATS systems and for the human beings, the recruiters and the hiring managers to see immediately that you're a good match for the job. Because how long do you think when a recruiter is looking at resumes, how long do you think they spend looking at a resume? Type a number in chat. How long do you think a recruiter spends looking at a resume? Good guess. Somebody's typed in less than 20 seconds, less than 10 seconds, or 10 seconds. I used to say, as a recruiter, I would spend between 5 and 10 seconds. Somebody said 8. That's actually very close statistically. I've read statistics, 7.4 seconds. You know, they look at the top, they look at your longevity on your jobs, they look at just key areas of expertise, double check the software skills, double check if there's a degree requirement, double check that. That's about it. Really quick. They're just scanning. And so you want to make it easy. So you want your formatting to be very clean. The margins should be about a 1-inch margin around the edge, lots of white space. Overall length, we've talked about the sweet spot for most professional resumes. If you have more than 3 or 5 years of service, try to go on to 2 pages. Some government jobs, technical jobs, 3, 4, 5 pages is okay, but sweet spot's about 2 pages. 1 page signals you're a recent college grad. Number of years. This is where you kind of do what makes most sense for you. I'd be interested in feedback from people in the audience. Type in A, B, or C. A, do you show all of your experience on your resume? And there's no right or wrong. I'll tell you what hiring managers kind of prefer, but it can depend. Do you type in A or do you type in B? Or do you do B, show just your most recent 10 or 15 years? Or do you show C, details about your most 10, 15, 20 years of experience, and then prior relevant experience? And somebody said C. And actually, that's the one I found hiring managers prefer. Now, when I applied for a job, I was networking. I was 59 years old, and I was networking with people that knew me. They knew I'd worked at EDS forever, so I showed all my experience. But that was unusual. As a recruiter, I saw a lot of B, where people would show 10 years and then cut it off. And their job titles were like director, VP, or whatever. I'm like, didn't you have other jobs before that? And then in a job interview, we'd ask them a question. Tell us about a time you had to implement a challenging project. And they'd mention some project at some company. I'm like, I don't even see this on your resume. And it would cause confusion. And I found hiring managers like to see a little bit more of the full story. So they like to see details about the recent experience, but also prior relevant experience. And in that section, and we'll show you an example, you don't have to put dates. You can just list prior company names and titles that are relevant to what you're applying for. It would show kind of interesting background relating to what you're applying for. Hiring managers like that. So I kind of recommend C in most cases. And then these are some of the key components of a resume that we'll talk through. You might have other components like publications, certifications as well, but these are some of the sections we'll talk through. So the heading is important. You make it real clear, your name and these 4 types of information, your phone number, closest major city that people would recognize, a professional looking email address, preferably with your name in it, so it's easy to find, and a kind of a recent type of email address like Gmail, and your LinkedIn, and you want to make that text, not a hot link, because that'll throw off some ATS systems like Workday, and no physical street address. Summary profile. This is very important. It's not an objective. You don't want to say, I'm seeking a job where I can learn and grow my skills. No, you want this to be a summary of who you are in relation to what that job is looking for. So every time you apply for a job, you want to read that job description, and you want to get an idea of what's the heart of that job. What are they really looking for? And in your opening few words, you want to hit that up. So if you're a business analyst and you've been a business analyst, put that top and center. That's what Gail Houston said. This is your headline. Now, if you're kind of changing jobs or careers, you may want to nuance that a little bit. If you're applying for a VP of HR, but you've never been a VP of HR, you may put HR leader or something that's close to what you don't want to falsify what you are, something that's close to the job that you're applying to. And you may want to talk to a recruiter or a career coach about how to do that. But if you're a business analyst applying for a business analyst job where they want you to document business requirements and work directly with customers, say you're a business analyst and that's what you've done in your very first sentence, because the recruiter may just read the first few words. And then these areas of expertise, you want to pick out the keywords that are used in the job description and put those in your resume. And this is my favorite part as a recruiter to look at, and modify this every time you apply for a job. And then the next section is optional, but it's very helpful for people in sales or other types of roles where you have to show that you have a consistent track record of winning awards or achieving targets over several jobs. And even recruiters sometimes use a section like this. So this is important for these types of jobs. And professional experience, this is where you want your layout to be very clean, reverse chronological order, use parallel verbs. This is what some of the other experts mentioned. for a job in the past tense, past, all of your bullet points should start with a strong verb focusing on the results and you in the past tense. If you have a current job that you're working on, it would probably mostly be in the present tense unless you completed something, and it might be in the past tense, but maybe put that at the bottom so it doesn't look confusing. And then it's beneficial to a lot of recruiters if you can include a one-line description of the company, especially if people don't know the company name, and it helps the recruiter understand what industries you've worked in. And limit the number of bullets per job. The most recent job, you might have 5, 6, 7, or 8 bullets, but after that, maybe just about 4 or 5 bullets per job. And focus on results in your bullet points. Somebody asked me to go back a screen. Is this the screen you were looking for, the key accomplishments? You can take a quick screenshot of this if you want. Excuse me. And this accomplishment screen is useful for people, especially in sales or business development or roles where you have to show a track record of meeting targets. Okay. Good. Thanks for asking that. That's the purpose of the chat box. You can ask me questions and I can respond. And then in these bullet points, wherever possible, you want to try to focus on results. And I have a fun game that I play with people I'm coaching to help them focus their bullets on results. And it's called the So What game. If you've heard me talk about the So What game, type yes into chat. And here's a real example when I was helping a marketing manager. She had a bullet point in her professional experience where she guided the next stage of brand evolution for a multimedia artist to manage film production. And so I just said, so what? But I really meant, so what was the accomplishment? What was the outcome? What was the business result? So I said, what was the outcome? She goes, well, this actually increased the business opportunities and it led to new commissions for my client. So then she reworded her bullet point to focus on those results. And she started with a stronger verb. You know, up here she said she guided the next stage of brand evolution. But now she's saying she increased business opportunities, including 10 commissions for her client based on developing social media strategy and PR strategy. And so here what she did was she actually changed some of the language. It was still true to what she did, but she used some of the language that the company was looking for in their job description. So she did 2 good things here. She increased, she focused on the result, made the opening verb stronger, increased business opportunities. And then she used the keywords and skills that the company was working for. So this was a really good example. Okay. And multiple roles at one company. If you've had multiple roles at a company, this is very important. It's really important to list the full tenure, and some of the experts mentioned this, the full tenure you were at that company. And if you had multiple roles, put the dates that you're in those roles up next to those titles. Because if you justify all these dates, now remember, recruiters are just scanning your resume. And if you justify those dates, they're going to think you're a job hopper. But if you do it this way, it looks like you've had good tenure. It looks like, oh, maybe you've been promoted. And it tells a stronger story. And then regarding education and software, this is how you can show that information. And again, it's important to list software skills, especially software that they're looking for in the job description. If they're looking for Excel, mention Excel. If they're looking for Excel with pivot tables, put that. If they're looking for Visual Studio, list that. And if you don't have a degree, like if you don't have a bachelor's, don't put bachelor's, because then it could raise a yellow flag. They could think you're falsifying your resume. So just put the school, city and state, maybe your major or area of concentration, or maybe the number of course hours, something like that. And then this is a very important activity. And once you've done this a couple times, it should take you just a few minutes to align your resume to the job you're applying for. So look at the title. If you're a business analyst applying for a business analyst job, put that front and center. So if the recruiter goes, yes, yay, that's somebody that meets our requirements, a business analyst. And look at what they're looking for. What's the heart of the job? They're looking for somebody who can document business requirements. Put that in the very first statement. Looking for somebody who can improve processes, work with cross-functional teams. And then look at the section at the bottom of the job description. This is usually the requirements for the job or the qualifications. They're looking for methodologies like Agile, Scrum. Put those in your areas of expertise if you have those. Visual Studio, if you have that, put it there. And if you're just taking training classes or watching YouTube classes about it, you could put Visual Studio parentheses training. You could do that. And it's still true. You're going through some training on Visual Studio, but you can still put it on your resume. I've seen people do that. If you've done, a significant amount, if you've invested several hours of training in it, you could do that. And then read some of the roles and responsibilities and highlight those keywords in your resume as well. So take a few minutes. This is very valuable to do this. Good. So if you have any questions, feel free to type those into chat. And at this point, I'm going to stop sharing my PowerPoint. And now I'm going to share that resume if I can find it. Let's see. It'll take me just a second. Share my screen. I think I have so many things. Well, preview WebEx. I have so many things.
You should be able to just click in the chat box and it'll automatically open it for you.
Okay.
Try that.
Yeah, I'll try that. Thank you. Sample bio. Sorry about this. Usually it goes right to that box. I must have had too many open boxes today. And fit crew. I'm going through the chat. There we go. Click to open. Yes. Okay, good. I'm going to share my second screen now. Okay. Since I'm sharing my second screen, I don't know if I can share my chat. I like to get people to type in comments. So can you see this okay, Jeff? Can you see the resume? Okay. And I'm not able to see my chat box. So if anybody types in any comments in chat, Jeff, if you see those, that's great. Because what I want to do is I'm going to scroll down this resume like a recruiter would look at it. And I want you all to take a look. And if you see things you like, type them into chat, and then we'll go through and see if there's any things we'd recommend. Nice clean layout. So visually, and it's 2 pages. So visually at first, I give it a pretty good score. Financial analyst and manager, logistics supply chain specialist. This kind of goes with the story I heard yesterday about the woman. She actually had 3 titles at the top of her resume, and recruiters were saying, okay, well, what do you want to do? It doesn't look like you know. So if you're applying for a financial analyst job, I'd put financial analyst. If you're applying for a financial manager job, I'd put financial manager. If you're applying for a logistics specialist job, you get what I'm saying. Target it to whatever job you're applying to. And then in your opening statement, you want to make sure that it aligns to the job you're applying for. If you're applying to a supply chain leader job and they're looking for a financial analyst experience, that'd be great. And I typically leave off the number of years here because if they're looking for 5+ years, you might do that. I see a lot of people say, I have over 20 years of experience, but the job description said 5+. That could get you thrown out as looking overqualified. So just be careful about that. Sometimes I say extensive experience in supply chain, blah, 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 blah. And then you already have your bachelor's down below. So that's less is more in a resume. You can take it out up here because hopefully you have your degree down here. Yeah. And recruiters are used to looking down there for your degree. Proven track record of innovative. Yeah, if they're looking for people that have a track record of innovative solutions to drive efficiencies, data analysis. Yeah, those are good words, especially if they're used in the job description, and you can tweak those. Okay. Now the core competencies and achievements. I kind of like what you did. It's a little different than what I typically do, but I like that these are bolded, that you have your core competencies. Hopefully they're related and you can change those up depending on what you're applying for. And you have some accomplishments next to them. They may or may not read them. They might read, there's something called the 3-word rule in the world of recruiting. They may just read the first 3 or 4 words.
I mean, I think a lot of these bullet points, you really need to do the so what thing.
Yeah.
Proven success in managing supply chain and logistic operations. So what?
What was the success?
Give me some results. Results sell.
Yes. Yeah, these are more like statements. They don't really show what was your achievement.
Right.
So if you have proven success,
the third one is the only bullet point. The third and the last one are the only two that actually have achievements.
Yes. However, the 3-word tool says establish a temporary warehouse flex system. It doesn't tell me a whole lot. I'd like to have your result first. Increased outbound efficiency by 5%. Oh, achieved a cost savings of 1 million and outbound efficiency, increased outbound efficiency. I would start with that and then reduce the number of words here by establishing a warehouse flex space. Short and brief. Yeah. So I kind of like that if you can make these truly achievements and make them
as long as they're in the job description. If they don't ask what in the job description, don't mention planning and forecasting. Don't mention inventory management. Only mention what's in the job description because you want to get that phone call.
Yeah. Yeah. If it's a financial analyst job, you want to focus on the financial analyst keywords that they're looking for in their job description. Okay.
This whole move the dates for the job over to the right.
Yeah. Hiring managers like to see that. They can see it easier. Okay. Claim specialist. Okay. Now, something that's interesting to me is I see these titles up here, but I'm not seeing them in your actual resume. So down here, I see business analyst. If you were a financial analyst, I would use the word financial analyst. Your job code may have said business analyst, but if you were doing financial analyst work, it's okay to say that functional title if that functional title describes what you did. So this would raise a yellow flag to me as a recruiter, because especially on the first page of your resume, you don't have these titles. Project manager.
There's no date by the category analyst, so I assume that Rite Aid, you were there from 2011 to 2015, right? Justify that, but then in parentheses, put down the dates that you were a senior business analyst and a category analyst.
Yeah, and it looks like, I can't tell if you were a senior business analyst on the supply chain group, or if this was another title, and if so, that could be a third title. Not quite sure. Project manager. I don't know if you can make that more descriptive to kind of match some of these other titles you're talking about, like financial. Yes. Oh, here we go. Here's some financial analyst work. Those are relevant. Oh, EDS. Yay. So it's good that you have that previous, I'd say prior relevant experience or previous experience is good too. So here you have these titles. Okay. All right. Technical summary. I'd probably list a few more if you could. Okay. Firefighter, that's kind of cool. Financial analyst, that's cool that that shows that you're leveraging your job skills and helping the community. You may want to say our church is fine, or a nonprofit organization. You could make it a little more generic. Financial analyst for a local nonprofit organization.
That's pretty generic and doesn't say anything.
Yeah. If there's something really impactful that a hiring manager would be interested in, I would add one more that's real impactful specific. So State Farm. I don't know if there's any way you can get the word financial. I don't know if you can.
So a question in the chat was, do we have to list prior relevant experience if you're already showing 21 years already, or can we omit it to make room for more current items?
It depends. It really does depend. If you have some prior relevant experience like this one that are really critical, like financial analyst, EDS, that shows a strong pedigree. So in that case, I'd say yes. So I guess it depends on how impactful those prior experiences were. And then also, if you show it on your LinkedIn, you'd want it to be consistent too.
And somebody asked, should we put years for prior experience? Should we list the years that we worked at those companies?
You don't have to on your resume. Now, when you fill out the job application, they may force you to, and on LinkedIn, they do if you list them on LinkedIn. But on your resume, you don't have to. Yeah. Okay. So I think the biggest challenge here on this one that I see is that these titles don't match the most recent work. So I don't know if there's any way you can add to this claims specialist title that shows doing some sort of financial work. Don't know. Yeah.
There's another question here. How many times do keywords need to appear in the entire resume, or just the top third of a resume for the ATS to select the resume?
As many as possible without being weird. Like if you're applying for a financial analyst job, you want to say financial analyst, you want to say financial analyst here. Financial analysis is one of your keywords. And then you want to, when you list a core competency, like logistics operations, you want to be sure somewhere in your professional experience, you have evidence that you've done that. So you want to list it again below and in the professional experience.
I've heard in some of the LinkedIn presentations that you want those keywords to appear 3 to 5 times in your resume.
Yes.
Or in your LinkedIn profile. So I would say in your resume, the same thing. Don't put something in the first paragraph that doesn't appear anyplace else because, well, show me when you did this. And I can't when you did that. So you got to remember, focus on the job description. Just tell them what they want to know. Right.
And I'm glad you mentioned the LinkedIn thing as well, because you want to have it in your headline, financial analyst in your headline, and then also in the about section. That's where you can load it up with lots of keywords. And then also down in your professional experience, load it up. So I agree with that 3 to 5 times.
Here's another good question. Is company name or type of company preferred? Why do people leave the company name off a resume?
Oh, you have to have the company name. Yeah, you have to have that. And then the one-liner about the company is helpful, especially if it's a small company. Like, well, these are all pretty self-explanatory.
Well, Liberty Excavators, you don't really know, but if you could say, the top excavator in the Pennsylvania area or whatever, you give it some meat.
yeah, leader in the construction industry or something. Especially, it helps recruiters know what industries you've worked for. Yeah, especially for smaller companies. But you absolutely have to put the company name there, and then a one-liner is helpful to help the recruiter know what kind of company it is. Good questions. Any other questions? Comments?
Here's another question. What if you state foreign bank? I don't quite understand.
Okay, now I can see that. Okay. Well, if you worked for a foreign bank in another country instead of the name, no, I would just put the name. You could put the name, and maybe it is in another language, like Italian or something, and just put a sentence that says one of the top 10 banks in Italy or whatever. That's what I would do. What do you think, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, put down the correct name.
Yeah.
And then
even if it's another language.
In the one-line description, you can just say, foreign bank located in Luxembourg or whatever.
Yeah, good. I figured out how to open my chat box on the other screen.
Okay.
Good. Okay. Well, great comments and questions. I appreciate everybody participating, and thank you to the person who shared your resume. That's everybody's favorite part, to see something real like that. And thank you, Jeff, for hosting these sessions week after week. We've done a lot of them.
We certainly have. It's pretty amazing. Carol, thank you very much. If you'd like
I want your feedback on, I had this epiphany this week. Would you agree, Jeff, that when we talk to experts that have really spent time with resumes and coaching people, do we hear fairly consistent feedback?
Oh, definitely. I mean,
Yeah.
they want it easy to read, stick to what's in the job description, make it easy for somebody to be able to connect the dots. And a lot of times people don't try to connect the dots. And that's what's hard.
Yeah.
And that's why if you have a master resume, it's easy, because then you've gotten everything down and you just delete what's unimportant.
Yeah, that's good.
You don't have to go, oh yeah, I used to do that back in 1983. You don't have to think about it.
Yeah, good. Thank you. Okay, well, thanks again.
Carol, thank you very much. Here's Carol's profile, if you LinkedIn profile, if you'd like to connect with her. Remember, if you do want to connect with her, please send a personal note. It's the same with me. I want to know why we should connect. You can just say, we saw you today at the Effective Resume workshop, just whatever. Just send a personal note to let us know why we should connect. Whenever you're on LinkedIn, always look for the blue connect button. If you don't see a blue connect button, click on the person's profile. You will always find a blue connect button there. All right. If you want a sample of the sample resume, the one-page bio, the sample T cover letter, and you weren't able to download it off the chat window, you can send me a resume. Send me an email to resume@careerdfw.org. I'll be glad to send those documents to you. Just let me know what you're looking for, because just the other day I got an email, something from like 3 months ago, that somebody watched on the YouTube channel for a certain document. Well, luckily they gave me a date, so I was able to go back and find it. So just let me know what documents you're looking for. Career DFW and Career USA, we're putting on training 4 days a week. We hope you'll join us for other sessions. Tomorrow morning at the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group, being the first Friday of every month, we always do open forum. We'll talk about whatever it is you would like to talk about. You're welcome to any topic you want to talk about. It's up for grabs, and other people are welcome to offer their opinions and suggestions. Next Tuesday was on LinkedIn Tuesday. We do a LinkedIn session every Tuesday. How to use LinkedIn for job hunting, strategies that get results. On Wednesday, we do an interview session every Wednesday. This Wednesday, for the month of November and December, we have a special guest speaker series. We've completed our 13-part workshop for the 5th time. So we're giving the guys off a couple months off. So this coming week, Gail Bridgman, some of you know her from the Frisco Career Transition Workshop that we do 3 times a year back when we were meeting in person. Her module that she would always present was all talking about interviewing. So if you want some good interviewing basics, join us next Wednesday. And then next Thursday, being the second Thursday of the month, we'll be talking about networking, how serving turns into networking opportunities with Heidi Torres. So you're welcome to join us for that. This session has been recorded. It will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and the Career USA YouTube channel. On the Career USA YouTube channel, click on playlist where you see the green arrow, and then down below, pick whatever topic you want, and don't click on the video, but click on view full playlist. And when you do that, up will come a list of all the different titles and topics and dates, and you can watch any of the sessions you like. The newest one is always on top. If you're not receiving emails about our workshops and you'd like to join the Career USA mailing list, please send an email to Career USA, +subscribe at groups.io, Career USA, +subscribe at groups.io. You'll never be spammed, but what you will get is the title of the day, the topic of the day, and the Zoom link of the day. That way you can just open the email and you're able to join us on Zoom. Please remember, Career DFW, we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We have no full or part-time employees. Career DFW, middle of this month, we turned 13 years old, celebrating our 13th birthday. And all that time, everything I've done over the last 13 years has been as a volunteer. We're just here to help you get your next great opportunity. All of our speakers are volunteers also. So thank you for joining us today. Carol, once again, thank you very much for your time. And hopefully we'll see you tomorrow or one day next week.
Thank you. And thanks everyone for joining. And thanks, Jeff.